In front of us we have the BuzzApex test bench facility where we test each and every one of our PC board controllers. We have the annunciator, the jockey controller, the electric controller, the diesel controller, as well as our LCD display where all the logs and that are displayed while testing. With regards to the annunciator, we have two separate modes. We've got the annunciator mode and modem mode. We'll go through the annunciator. Annunciator will be linked to for the sprinkler systems, which is linked to your jockey pump, your diesel, your electric controllers. We have 12 digital inputs. These inputs we've linked to limit switches or toggle switches where we can activate predefined conditions. We have a detection fire, a fault, detection fire, a monitored sprinkler control valve, limit switch for the control panel door, battery charger, pump house protect, the alarm accept button, the maintenance mode LED, as well as the strobe bell siren 1 and siren 2. I'm now going to trigger inputs. We'll select monitored valve, which is input 10 on the annunciator. If we go menu, we go into the logs. We've got input 10 triggered. If I go back to this monitored valve switch it off, and it shows us the condition has been cleared. Now I'm going to activate the limit switch on input 9. Trigger the limit switch, come through to the display, logs, digital input 9 in a high condition. We go back, we'll reset, limit switch, input low, the input's been reset. We're now going to trigger the battery charger monitoring, switch the battery charger off, the bell on the canopy will activate, we get an annunciator panel charger fail, we go into the logs, we get annunciator panel battery charger fail, we go back, we alarm accept, which will silence the buzzer on the annunciator, silences the bell and the internal buzzer, and an alarm buzzer has been silenced, gets logged. We'll now go back, switch the battery charger back on, come back to the logs. We'll now activate the maintenance mode input. Triggers output number 5. On the display it says maintenance mode has been activated. We go menu, logs. It shows us testing in progress, maintenance mode activated. So now we'll go and reset the maintenance mode. Mode has been reset, LED switches off, and in the logs it indicates maintenance mode off. We're now going to go into the jockey controller. The jockey controller communicates with the annunciator via CAN bus. All communication to and from each controller is done via this connector. On the jockey controller we are monitoring each phase, the red, the white and the blue on these 3 inputs, which reports back to our LCD display, and you can actually see the voltage on each phase. Should a phase go down, it'll indicate which phase has gone down. On the status screen for the jockey controller, you'll see the condition of the controller, or jockey pump, if it's running or not, the charger status, the battery voltage, the water pressure monitored by a transducer sensor, each phase voltage, the run count of the jockey for the day as well as the previous day, as well as the run time over the period the jockey's been installed. Now we're going to trigger the jockey controller, and each input has a toggle switch that we've connected to in order to activate and trigger the necessary outputs or conditions. We're now going to activate a pump trip. On the pump trip you can see pump trip to BMS, the trip lamp, our outputs on the controller have activated. We'll come to the display. On the display you see jockey pump 1 tripped. We go into the logs. Jockey pump trip, motor pump damaged, urgent attention required. Now back at the controller, we're going to switch off the pump trip condition. The condition clears at the controller, as well as back on the LCD display, it'll indicate the status of the system. I'm going to activate the pressure switch. Pressure's dropped on the system, pump starts, the hour meter is running, run lamp, as well as the auxiliary BMS signal. Come down to our display, it shows you jockey pump 1 running. We go into the logs, jockey pump run, maintaining system pressure, jockey pump pressure switch activated, system pressure was below required. I go out of here, go into the status screen. You can see the runtime for the jockey pump has started counting as well. If I go out, indicates there. The pump's pressure switch is still activated. When I release, the pressure is back to normal. The conditions clear. We come back to the display. The conditions have cleared on the display. We go into the logs. It indicates jockey pump has stopped. We have the lamp test input. Trigger it. You can see the lamps have activated. The hour meter and the pump is only when this jockey pump is running. Okay, let's clear this. Pump run input. Hold the trigger in. Indicates hour meters operating. The run lamp showing on the display on the box, as well as the auxiliary for the pump run. We'll come back down to the display. As you can see on our display, jockey pump 1 is running. We go into the logs. Jockey pump run, maintaining system pressure. When I release the condition, it'll show jockey pump stopped. Jockey pump has stopped. We're now going to hit test button. You can see pump start, the hour meter is running, the run lamp on the box enclosure will display, as well as auxiliary output activates. With the test button triggered, we've got jockey pump 1 running. We go next into this. You can see the run time has increased, the run count for the day. There we go. Exit out of here. We go into the logs, and it shows you jockey pump run, maintaining system pressure, jockey pump remote test start switch activated. When we release, we'll get a jockey pump stop. Jockey pump is stopped. I'm going to trigger the manual auto start on the jockey panel. Triggered. Outputs have activated. We come back to the display. Jockey pump run. We go into the status screen. Count. Previous. The time. We go menu. The logs. Jockey pump. Maintaining system pressure. Jockey selector switch has been switched to manual. Jockey will remain active until switch to indicate to any person. I'm going to switch the manual auto to auto position. Clears the outputs. Come down to the display to view the logs. Jockey selector switch in the auto. Activate the battery charger or switch it off. Charge it switched off. We come to the display, indicates which controller, jockey pump 1, battery charger fault. We go menu, logs. We get jockey pump battery charger faulty, backup battery not charging. We'll go back, switch the charger back on, and the condition clears when the battery charger is repaired. We're now going to move on to the electric controller. We're going to test each input and output via the toggle switches for the specific controller. We're now going to trigger a mains fail condition on the electric. We've got the LED which activates via the output, which sends signal to the annunciator via the CAN bus, and the bell and the strobe have activated. We come to the LCD display. It shows electric pump 1 mains failed. We go menu logs. electric pump mains fail, incoming supply fault. Should the mains incoming supply return to the controller, condition will automatically clear, as well as the alarm on the annunciator. We're now going to activate the control circuit failure. Triggers the outputs, as well as the bell and the strobe from the annunciator. Come over to the display. It shows you electric pump control fault. We go into the status screens for the electric pump. It shows you pump status, control failed, pump control circuit status fault. We go out, we go into logs, and the log shows electric pump control circuit failed. We go back to the control circuit, we clear the condition, automatically clears the outputs, which clears the alarm, canopy, bell and strobe. We're going to trigger the pump run input, triggers the pump run LED as well as the auxiliary outputs. It activates the strobe on the annunciator. On the LCD display it shows electric pump 1 running. We go into the status screen, it shows pump running and the condition as well as the runtime for the unit. We go into the logs and it shows electric pump run, investigate for fire condition. We'll go back and we'll reset the pump run. It manually clears the outputs on the controller as well as the outputs on the annunciator. We come back to the display, it shows electric pump stop reset activated. Now I'm going to activate the pressure switch. Triggers the outputs on the electric controller as well as siren 1 and the strobe on the annunciator. On the display we have electric pump 1 fire alarm as well as the electric pump run. We go next into the status screen, indicating pump run, go out, we go menu into the logs, electric pump run, the pressure switch is activated. If we go back to the controller now, I'll release the switch, conditions stay latched, I need to manually stop reset the system. The controller is reset, the outputs on the annunciator clear, and then on the LCD display we get electric pump stop reset push button activated. Now I'm going to activate the test button on the electric controller. As you can see, the outputs have activated, pump start, fire lamp, the pump run lamp, as well as the auxiliary outputs for run and fire. We go to the annunciator, we have siren 1 and strobe that's activated, and we come to the display and it shows electric pump run, test start push button. So the test start is activated. We now manually reset the system. All the outputs have cleared. Go to the annunciator, the outputs are cleared on the annunciator, the strobe and the siren. We come back to the display, electric pump stop, reset push button activated. Now I'm going to activate the manual start or emergency start. Triggers the pump start, pump run lamp, as well as auxiliary run output, the strobe light on the auxiliary or on your canopy. We come to the display, we've got electric pump 1 run, go logs, we have electric pump run, electric pump emergency start activated manually. We go back to the top, we manually reset the alarm, and all the outputs have cleared on the controller for the electric and the annunciator, as well as I've got the log for the electric pump reset. On the electric controller we also have the facilities to do a lamp test, monitor the isolator switch, the battery charger, as well as the panel enclosure limit switch. Now we're on the diesel controller. We're going to activate the inputs, the outputs, which indicate on these LEDs, and we'll switch them on and off via the toggle switches, as well as the dials to simulate the RPM and the water pressure change on the system. We're now going to activate the engine temperature switch. which activates the LED, the output, high engine temp for the auxiliary and for the output on the controller. We go across to the annunciator. It's activated the bell and strobe outputs. On a display, it's showing diesel pump engine high temp. We'll go next. Go check the status screens for the diesel. Engine temperature status is at overheat. We go into the logs. Diesel engine temperature high. And I'll come back to the electric controller, go to the engine temp toggle switch, clear the event, and all the events have cleared. We go into the logs. And you can see the last event that occurred. We're now going to activate the oil pressure. Activates the outputs, the LEDs, the lamps. Go to the auxiliary, the annunciator. The auxiliary strobe and bell have activated. Come to the display. We've got diesel pump oil pressure low. We go into the status screen. Oil pressure status low. We go into the logs. Diesel pump oil pressure low. We go back to the oil pressure switch, clear the event, and it manually clears once the oil pressure has been returned to normal condition. We're now going to activate the pressure switch. It activates the fuel pump power. Crank 2 has started. Fire lamp, the auxiliary fire output on the annunciator, siren 1 and strobe have activated. We come across to the display. We've got diesel pump fire alarm. We go into the logs. Indicates pump status, pump running, the engine RPM, the battery status. We go out, we go into logs. You can see the crank started on 2, then went to 1, pump ran, the extractor fan switched on, we returned, we reset manually. The alarms have cleared, as well as the alarm conditions on the annunciator. We've got a diesel pump stop reset push button activated. The diesel pump is off, as well as the extractor fan is off. We're now going to use the test button. Crank relay 1 started. Pump power. Fire lamp LED. Just go back to here, we go watch the crank. After the 15 seconds, it'll switch over to crank 2. On to crank 2, we go to auxiliary. The outputs have activated for the siren and the strobe. We've got diesel pump fire alarm, menu, logs. We've got the test push button activated, manual activated, as well as which crank is happening. As you can see, it's going through the 6-start crank. We exit there, we come back, we manually reset the system, and the conditions have cleared. I'm now going to do the emergency start. Select emergency start 1. Crank relay 1 has started. Fuel pump, fire lamp, fire BMS. We go to the annunciator. Siren and strobe is activated. We come to the display. Diesel pump 1 fire alarm. In the logs, emergency start 1 push button activated. It started on crank 1, went to crank 2, now back on crank 1. We come back. We reset emergency start. All the outputs for the diesel controller have cleared, and the annunciator have cleared, as well as this log for diesel stop reset push button. Lamp test is just for the LEDs and indicator lights. Control circuit fail. activates the output for control fail, as well as the bell and the strobe outputs on the annunciator, and indicates diesel pump on control fail on the home screen. We go to logs, we get diesel pump control circuit fail, mains batteries have been disconnected. We go return back, we clear the condition, and it automatically clears all outputs on the system. I'm now going to activate the mains fail, battery charger fail, and there's somebody's opened the enclosure with the limit switch. The outputs have activated for mains fail. We go across to the annunciator, we've got bell and strobe outputs activated. We come to the logs, we've got diesel 1 mains voltage failed, diesel pump 1 battery charger fault. We go menu logs. We've got the sequence, diesel pump battery charger faulty, diesel pump battery charger, and panel door for the limit switch. We come back to the toggles, clear each event. We'll go back to the display. We have panel door has been closed, controller mains restored. Now I'm going to do the fuel level activated, fuel level low, BMS and outputs for LEDs have been activated. We come to LCD display, and we have diesel pump fuel level low, diesel tank to be urgently refilled. I'm now going to trigger the pump run. We've got the extractor fan on, pump run lamp, the auxiliary pump run signal, the output is on the annunciator, the strobe light is activated, diesel pump 1 run on the status screen, menu logs, we got diesel pump run, we've got the extractor fan on, we go into the status screen, pump running with the RPM of the motor at the time. Now I'm going to trigger a battery charger, trigger charger number 2. The lamps and the outputs on the controller have activated. On the annunciator, the bell and strobe have activated. We come to the status screen, battery charger status, number 1 is on, number 2 is off. We exit, we go battery diesel pump battery 2 charger fault, go into the logs, diesel pump main battery charger 2 faulty. We go back, clear the event, all outputs clear themselves manually. The outputs on the annunciator, exit, system is cleared. We go into the status and indicating both batteries on. Now I'm going to activate a water pressure change. So we've got a toggle switch, we turn that, we come across to our LCD, go to the status screens, you can see water pressure point fluctuating, and as I turn the gauge, so the pressure goes up or goes back down to 0. Each of the controllers send the information onto our CAN bus to this annunciator, where the annunciator logs the information onto the display, as well as all events, all conditions get recorded on the BuzzApex platform, where no events can be deleted. With regards to the annunciator, as explained earlier, we have 2 modes, the annunciator for the sprinklers and the modem for monitoring of fire detection systems or any HVAC, any equipment that you would like. On the annunciator, each input is registered to an output, or one input can have 4 outputs recorded and programmed. In front of us we have the final product. This is our annunciator controller, a jockey panel controller, diesel panel controller, and finally the electric panel controller.